Hello, everyone. In this last section of analyzing a research article, we'll focus on data analysis and relevance. So, what are the results? What does it mean? What is the take home message? So, first, let's look at the article on hibiscus. For the results, the best place is the graphs or the tables as we saw previously. In this particular paper, table 3 and figure 2 are the main findings, and they actually are the same. So table 3 is the table format of what is in graph number 2. So you can look at the graph and you can see what's going on, right? Let's look at systolic. You can see that over the 6-week period, the blood pressure decreased significantly in the group that were given hibiscus compared to the group that was given the placebo. If we go to table 3, we see the same thing, right? That the blood pressure changes in these adults after 6-week period is seen such that in the placebo, there was a decrease minus by 1.3. So the blood pressure decreased by 1.3, at least the systolic blood pressure, while in the hibiscus tea group, it decreased by 7.2 points. So we can see there's a significant difference between the two. If we look at the diastolic blood pressure, the change was a decrease by 0.5 in the placebo group and a decrease by 3.1 in the experimental group, right? So if we go to the results, if you want this more, if you cannot interpret the graph, then where you really want to also look is go to the results and see where they first mentioned table 3, see where they first mentioned table 2, and what they state there is a summary of the result. So if I look right here, they mentioned table 3 and figure 2 in this paragraph. What does it tell me? So it says, following the 6 week of treatment, the change in SBP, systolic blood pressure, in those who consumed the hibiscus tea was greater than in those who consumed the placebo, and the significant value, which is called the probability, is 0.03. Ideally, if the probability of it happening is less than 0.05, that means the result is significant. So obviously 0.03 is less, is significant. That sentence here could be something I put in the results of my paper. Now keep in mind, if they show you graphs and tables with numerical value, you want to include that when you write up your results. So if I look further, they actually give me numerical value in the changes. So first in the table we saw it decreased by this amount of points, but here it says, for example, compared with baseline, 6 weeks of treatment with hibiscus tea lowered the mean systolic blood pressure by 5.5%, and that was very significant. The diastolic blood pressure by 4.0%, and that was also significant. And the MAP by 4.7%. That was also significant. And MAP is mean arterial pressure, which is also a form of blood pressure. It says, whereas the placebo beverage did not affect this individual. So now here I have numerical values I can put in my article dissection. 5.5% decrease of SBP, 4.0% decrease of DBP, etc. If we look at the second article, the one on chlamydia and lactobacilli, if we go back to the figure 2 graph, this is the one I focused on, and keep in mind, if you have many graphs or results, pick the one or two that is most significant to present on. So here, I can tell from this graph that as lactobacilli, the media containing lactobacilli um, increase in acidity, meaning that the pH decreased, the greater it actually inhibited the growth of the bacteria. And I can provide specific value. I can say, for example, at 4.5, a pH of 4.56, the amount of bacteria present was 1.5 times 10 to the third compared to, the control, which had 5.5 times 10 to the third bacterial colonies. So I can use the graph to give my data. But if you find it difficult to interpret the graph, go back in the results section and find where they first mentioned figure 2 and see what they say. So we're going to go back up here to the results. I'm going to look at when they first mentioned, figure 2 was first mentioned here. And in this particular article, the title of that section is actually tells you a lot. The title of this result where figure 2 is mentioned says, progressively increase chlamydicidal activities during the course of lactobacillus growth. What does it mean? It means that chlamydicidal, cidal means to kill, like suicidal, homicidal. Cidal means to kill. So it means as the lactobacillus continue to grow, the amount of killing of chlamydia increases. That's what it's saying here. Okay? If I scroll down, so it says here, significant killing was undetectable until the pH was at or below 5. And if I go to figure 2, that's what it shows. For example, here, it says significant killing was not detectable until after, and significant mean the asterisk, after the pH passed or decreased lower than 5. So once it got lower than 5, then the amount of death of this bacteria was significant. So these are numerical data I can include in the results. Now, for the conclusion, discussion and conclusion, I would go to that section. So if I scroll down to discussion, what are some key points I want to put in the conclusions of the article? So when I look for conclusions, I look for something that ties directly back to the results, and I look for something that ties back to the overall study. So going back to the results, let's see if they mention anything. So I'm scrolling through my discussion. Okay. I'm scrolling through the discussion. And let me see if we find anything of significance. Okay. So at least in the conclusive statement, I can find something here for the conclusive statement. It says, in summary, we have shown that lactic acid, but not hydrogen peroxide, is both required and sufficient to kill these chlamydia, right, in 3 different species of lactobacillus. So that's the main summary of the results. What's the take-home message? It says here, these findings have important implications for development of lactobacilli as a prophylactic, which means as a means or a treatment for chlamydia STI, right, sexually transmitted infections and other infectious diseases in the genital tract. So from that first sentence here and that last sentence, I have found something I can put in my conclusion, right? If I go back to the other article on hibiscus and we go to the discussion and conclusion, okay? That first sentence in the discussion is perfect. It supports the result. Daily consumption of 3 servings of hibiscus tea effectively lowered blood pressure in pre and mildly hypersensitive adults. If you notice this statement here, it's actually supports the hypothesis. So when you write these conclusive statements for your conclusion, find something that supports the hypothesis. So if we scroll down, what else can they say? Let me see. So if we look at the final statement, they say that the dietary change assessed in the study, which means the 3 serving, effectively reduces blood pressure in these hypertensive adults, which is the same like we said before. And here's the take-home message. This strategy may be useful in preventing the progression to moderate or more severe hypertension, thus potentially reducing the subsequent risk of developing cardiovascular disease. That's the take-home message. Who cares about the study? Oh, this is how I can apply it to me. So that is what you want to look for when you talk about your conclusive statements, right? And ideally, you want to find one that summarizes the results and another one that look at future use or application of the results, okay? So we just finished data analysis and relevance on the article dissection, and hopefully you will find the whole presentation helpful when analyzing your article. Thank you.